And welcome back to Street Switch Photography. We are live, yes. We're going to be taking a look at the Melton Borough Council meeting tonight, the planning committee, and let's roll the intro.
Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah.
So yes, something of a little bit of a difference tonight. I'm going to be doing a live on the meeting at Melton Borough Council that's just literally started about 2-3 minutes ago. It's to do with the planning committee. It's basically giving out planning, and I've been given reason to believe that they've already made the decisions on this before they've even voted on it. But let's take you over to the other screen and let's start to listen to what they're actually saying within the meeting. So let's have a look. This is the beginning of the meeting. I hope the audio is okay, and I hope the picture quality is okay as well.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this planning meeting of Melton Borough Council. I'm Councillor Alan Thwaites, Chair of Planning, and I will be chairing this meeting.
Sorry.
I don't know what's going on there.
No, it's Halloween.
Hello?
Are we okay? Can everybody hear me okay? Just the once. Great. Right, so housekeeping. In the event of having to evacuate the council chamber, please leave by one of the 6 emergency exits around the sides of the chamber. Please assemble at the far side of the front car park nearest the park entrance. Officers will be on hand to assist anyone who needs any assistance. Please put your phone on silent during this meeting. The meeting will be live streamed on YouTube this evening. Members speaking. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak and speak directly into the microphone in front of you. Remember to turn it off once you've been...
Just going to get the pop-out chat.
To make sure everybody can speak quite loudly into the microphones, because some people couldn't hear. And members voting will be by raised hands. I'd like to introduce those present. The members here this evening. To my right are councillors Jim Adcock, Pippa Olnett, Ian Atherton, Elaine Holmes. Alison Freer is possibly going to be the substitute for Ronan Brown, but we've not heard anything at this moment in time. And Councillor Marilyn Gordon.
Don't know what's gone on there.
To my left we have Councillor James Mason, Councillor Richard Sharp, substituting for Councillor Higgins. Councillor Sharon Butcher is substituting for Councillor Margaret Glancy, and Tim Webster, who's substituting for Don Pritchett. We had a message that he's stuck in traffic, so he will be joining us hopefully at some time during this evening. We have a team of officers present who are to my left, the Legal Services Team Manager Tom Pickwell. To my right, we have Planning Development Manager Louise Parker, the Director for Place and Prosperity, no we don't, the Assistant Director for Planning Sarah Legg, then the Director for Place and Prosperity Lydia Rusling, and the Planning Officer Max Sanders. We also have our Democratic Services team present, assisting with the technology and the microphones, and taking the minutes, which is Adam Green and Ellen Hange. On the agenda this evening, first one is apologies for absence. As I've just mentioned, Councillor Brown, Glancy, Higgins and Pritchett have all offered their apologies for this evening. So
that's Margaret Glancy isn't there, Lee Higgins isn't there neither.
And Councillor Butcher...
Can't say I blame him.
Substitute Councillor Glancy. Yeah, Councillor Freer is hopefully going to be the substitute for Councillor Brown. Councillor Webster is hopefully going to be the present substitute for Councillor Pritchett. And Councillor Sharp for Councillor Higgins. The minutes. To confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of September 2025. Do I have a proposer for those minutes? Councillor Mason. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Olnett. Did anybody have any comments? Councillor Atherton, I think, was first, and then come to you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the minutes linked on in the agenda on the website, they're dated Thursday, the 28th of August. Albeit the minutes do seem to reflect the meeting that was held, but the date...
Now, I've received some information that they've already made a decision on this, and it will be to do with the solar panels somewhere near Beaver Castle. Apparently they're going to go ahead, but as I said before, rumours are rumours. You do not know whether they're true or not. So really, you can't really trust rumours. We should learn this, and this should be an important lesson for people. When we hear rumours of Melton Mowbray, it's like Chinese whispers. We shouldn't trust them. Let's see what happens in the meeting. Let's see what the councillors actually say, and let's see what happens, and we'll go from there. But as I said, rumours are rumours.
Incorrect.
Okay, the one I've got there signed is actually dated the 25th, so hopefully that's correct. But that'll be noted if we can. Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, it's where you've got down for the application and for Councillor Gordon, where I've put some words there. It's got Councillor Gordon issued a reminder that the Leicestershire County Council be informed of the potential parking. Could you put potential there, please? Parking situation near the proposed new school and the potential...
We all know about parking and Melton Mowbray when we had 3 weeks of it for absolutely free, don't we? That will be a scrutiny committee that goes ahead, and that should not have happened. They put it down to computer error, but who works the computers? That's correct, humans. So it was human error, wasn't it? But let's carry on with the meeting, and that... Let's just carry on.
Congestion caused by parents dropping off, if you could add that in, and collecting children from school by car. And then if you could just add, this is an ongoing problem with other schools within the Melton area and perhaps elsewhere.
No, I can actually vouch for that. It is a big problem. You get people parking on double yellow lines outside of schools. You get people speeding outside of schools. You get people where the zebra crossings are and things like that. Kids crossing zebra crossings aren't safe. Here on where, you know, I know where there's a couple of zebra crossings, and I've seen even pelican crossings, cars will still go full belt across those. People need to be more careful as well.
That's okay.
Are you saying that was missed from the minutes, or was that what was actually said? Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the minutes, and I know that I've just got to put potential parking, obviously, because if I don't, because it's not been built yet, they can't just put parking issues.
Okay,
but the other bit I've put on was what I had put on before for the reason for it, and it was because of the ongoing problem with other schools as well in Melton and elsewhere.
You mentioned that on the...
There you go, like I said.
I'm not sure.
A problem with other schools as well.
About that, but I know I mentioned it before at the one before then, which is what it was on about.
This is the minutes of the last meeting, so I don't think that last part.
Yeah, that's I can't remember doing it. But it's just explaining what the problem is and within Melton, so that the county council know why I'm bringing that up, because it is an ongoing problem with schools around Melton and possibly elsewhere. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. As I said, this is minutes, not a statement. So.
What? This is minutes, not a statement. She wasn't making a statement. She was trying to correct something on the minutes, mister. Get it right. If you think you've got any sign of authority above anybody in that room, you're fucking wrong. I wouldn't be spoken to like that. I'd say, watch your lip, mate. So the person that Thwaites is talking to at the minute is a legal representative, making sure they don't say anything they shouldn't.
It's on application 23/002.
But which meeting? You're talking about the signing of the minutes for the meeting in August that was signed at the last meeting.
And then I brought it up at the last. Yeah, it would have been August, wouldn't it? Or was it October? It would have been August, because I brought it up as a reminder, because I asked. If you remember, you went across and sat over there.
Yeah,
it was a reminder for the council officers.
Now, I've just noticed something. On one of the last meetings, Alan Thwaites had to leave because there was vested interest. If he was still sat in the room, would that not be... I thought he was actually supposed to leave the whole room, not go and sit over in the public gallery so he can still sit and listen to what's going on. Would that not be a conflict of interest? That's a question I'd like answering. If anybody knows the answer, leave a comment.
To send this to the county council.
The point is, Carolyn, that was for the minutes before, not for these minutes that we're signing now. So therefore, it can't be added into these minutes.
Minutes are on here now. What is put down? What I put last time. It's got in the actual minutes. If you look on the minutes at PL22, you'll see where it says Councillor Gordon issued a reminder.
Now, Councillor Gordon is an independent councillor. She's probably, I think she's the only real independent councillor there, if I'm honest. She's not linked to anybody else or anything like that. She's been at the council for some time now. Trying to see who else is there.
Out of the way and investigate that, so we won't vote on the minutes this evening.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Well done.
So we will move on.
Well done, Councillor Gordon. Another cock up.
I'll kick the ball off with this one and say that as the councillor for the Warwick Ward,
straight off the bat, another cock up. They can't vote on the minutes or everything else because Councillor Gordon has had to point out yet another mistake, although it be a very small mistake. It's these small mistakes that all mount up to massive mistakes, isn't it? Like the parking that went off, and now how are they going to claw back all that money? Now, there's a massive problem in Melton Mowbray with money like this, and what from Melton Borough Council. I'm going to give you a little bit of history. For example, Snow Hill was supposed to have had 100 and something odd houses or dwellings built on it via a company that applied for planning permission and everything else. Melton Borough Council have got a history of not collecting on what you call Section 106s. We've had things put in for new schools, new doctors and all the rest of it, and we keep building these houses, and now there's more information coming out that we've got 172 new homes being built. Now, we've got up to 4,000 homes already being built in Melton Mowbray with no infrastructure going in place whatsoever because the council have not got the money. Now, what you need to do is look at the stockyard. The stockyard is a very important thing to do with this money and to do with Melton Mowbray, and something called Guild Stream. If you follow the money, you will find what has been found. And if you go over onto Facebook and just type in Guildstream or type in certain things to search for this, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. They cannot explain where the Levelling Up Fund has gone, where the money has gone. I think it's gone to Leicestershire County Council. There is corruption going on somewhere. Who? I do not know. I will not name people if I did know, because that is not my job to. I don't call people out like that. But when I see something not quite right, I'll fucking point it out. And there is something not correct. There's something seriously wrong, especially with this Guildstream and Stockyard thing. Now it won't be built till 2026, 2027. The doctors has been laid off. It's not being done. The new schools and all this lot. This collecting of the money from Section 106s has got to be sorted out. And I think, now don't take my word for this, I'm hoping they're not just thinking about writing this debt off. Because if that is, that's going to be the taxpayer that fucking takes the brunt of that. And people can't afford it, especially under this Labour government. They're already on about rising taxes and stuff. Let's go back to the stream and see what's happening.
I will be standing down for the first application. And as I'm a speaker, I will stay in the room till I speak, and then after that, I will leave the room. Do I have any council?
Miss Gordon has just said you don't leave the room, you go and sit in the public gallery. So that would be a conflict of interest, wouldn't it, Mr. Thwaites? You need to leave the room, not sit in the public gallery. And Miss Gordon has just said you sat in the public gallery last time when you got up from this area where you're sat now and left. Well, you didn't leave, did you? You just got behind the camera.
Yes. Now I'm
Pip Allnut, leader of Labour.
Item, because it's at the top of the cattle market. I can't do what you're doing because I'm also leader of the council. And although the decision to sell the land subject to planning occurred before I even got on the council
I think this is to do with the new old people's home that's being built on the cattle market car park up near the White House dentist.
Our new rules, I'm not allowed to stay in the room to make a comment.
But you can sit in the public gallery.
I just want to add that prior to the rules changing, and when this application was first published, I did raise an issue on behalf of residents about the loss of light, and I understand from reading the papers that it will be discussed tonight. So I'm pleased to see that. I make no comment, of course. And the other two things that I did raise, which were not of a planning aspect, but were raised by the objectors, I did raise with the police and with the proprietors of the cattle market on their behalf about issues around the smell from the done from the
Okay, I
markets.
think that's fair.
And
That's just the way it is, though. We've got pet foods that kick up a stink across Melton every single day. We've got the sewage works that kick up a stink across Melton every single day. We're a market town. People know that it's going to smell of market. Hence cow shit, sheep shit, pig shit, and all the rest of the shit. And that's the way it is. As long as they clear the drains out regularly and everything else, which I have actually recorded them doing before now, that should be fine. I can't see any problem with it as long as you collect on the section 106.
but I wanted any objectors to know that I have raised those issues on their behalf, but I will not be allowed under the rules to be in the room when the decision is taken tonight.
I can't understand that. Just wait a minute. Right. If you've got, say, £200,000 to buy a new property and you've seen a property you like and you want that property to be really nice and everything else, and you know it's right across the road from a cattle market. The clue's in the name, cattle market, a farming area. You know it's going to smell of all sorts of shit, don't you? So you just wouldn't buy the house there, would you? I don't get that. That's a little bit odd to me, but maybe I'm lacking common sense or I'm missing something. I do not know.
Thank you, Councillor Albert. Any Councillor Butcher?
Councillor, gotcha. I gotcha. I like
I
that.
need to leave for that one because I'm a cabinet member.
Are there any
Councillor
other
Butcher?
members that wish to raise any more? No, that's fine. In that case, we will move on to the schedule of applications, and I will hand over to my
So this will be the first. Here we go.
my esteemed colleague, Councillor.
Now, why are they changing? Is he leaving the room because he has vested interests in it and it'd be a conflict of interest? Or are they just swapping because, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. Because he looks like he's going to walk round to the public gallery because I haven't seen him cross here yet.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me okay. So we'll move on to the application number 15/00127 outline plan permission for 175 dwellings at Melton Road, Burton Lazars.
Burton Lazars, 172 new homes. We've just had 4,000 new homes been built. I've been walking around these estates. Recording them, how many landlords are going to whip these properties up, mortgage them out, and then go to Serco. We do not know. It's as simple and as plain as that. And worrying. Very worrying for Melton because we have not got the infrastructure, and with the council not collecting on 106s, this is only going to end one way. A fucking disaster.
Members will recall that this was deferred from a previous committee meeting because of the lack of access to the viability reports, and they've now been published pretty soon after the last meeting and have been on the portal for some time. I'm trust that everyone has managed to have access to them, if not read them. So I'm just looking around the room, make certain that everyone's content with that. Thank you very much. Could I ask then the officer?
So here's where the planning permission is supposed to be for.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, thank you, members. So this first slide here, this is relating to application 15/00127 OUT, which is land
So this is part of the new bypass, I think.
adjacent Child's Cottage, Melton Mowbray. This is on land to the south of Melton Mowbray. Members will be familiar with the roundabout that has recently been constructed, which is known as the MMDR Roundabout 6 on Burton Road between the edge of the town and Burton Lazars. One of the access points, should I say, into the site has been built as part of that roundabout design, and that is marked there for you on the slide in terms of that drone footage photograph that's been taken. So you're in a fairly unusual position here that you've got the site there marked out on the left-hand side, which is your red line site plan showing the area that is for consent, and
So
you do
here.
actually already have the access. And the application is seeking planning permission in outline for up to 175 dwellings, including the access with.
Now that is a lot of homes, 175 new dwellings, considering they've just had the one on Snow Hill fall through.
all other matters reserved for determination at a future point.
It seems to me like, this is just my opinion. I'm allowed an opinion, but the council, meaning Melton Borough Council, just hand out planning applications like they're slices of birthday cake, in my opinion. And then with the not collecting on the Section 106s, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. It's like they've forgotten how to strike deals or something. If they're not going to pay the Section 106s and stick to their part of the bargain, when you set the bargain, get a decent deal in the first place, fuck them off. No. Go. We don't need new homes. We need new doctors, new schools, new dentists. Unbelievable.
If I can have the next slide, please. Thank you. So just to provide a little further context in respect of this application. So this is essentially an early phase of the wider Melton South Sustainable Neighbourhood, which forms part of the policy SS4, which is the adopted Melton Local Plan, and that was adopted in 2018, covering the period from 2011 through to 2036. This is the master plan that was approved by the council at the back end of 2021, which shows the extent of that sustainable neighbourhood in terms of residential development between Burton Road, which is over there on the right hand side, the A606, and the A607, which is over there on the furthest left hand side of the slide. Eventually that sustainable neighbourhood would have a local centre, a primary school, the distributor road, which will be...
It's all right saying eventually, isn't it? Eventually isn't good enough. You need 100%.
Delivered in phases to bring forward that wider development, and over on the western side there.
Build the school first, then what I would say is you build the school first and then you can put your dwellings there. We need the infrastructure there first to be able to cope. Okay, we need the infrastructure. That is the secret word here that they're all missing. That most councils, especially Labour councils, seem to miss, and I don't understand why.
You can see there's land that's allocated for...
And then there's the worry is who's going to be moving into these properties.
So the site that you're dealing with this evening is that site furthest over on the eastern side on that zoomed out map. So like I say, it is allocated for housing development as part of that wider sustainable neighbourhood.
2021 master plan.
The local plan as part of that wider master plan development. If I could have the next slide, please. So as part of an outline planning application, it is quite usual that you would have an illustrative master plan submitted to demonstrate that the site is capable of accommodating the development that is proposed. So this is not a set layout of the development by any stretch of the imagination. Tonight you are being asked to determine the principle of the development and the access to the site only. And this is to essentially...
What I'd like to know is what is the effect on local residents, wildlife and the infrastructure of Melton Mowbray? There'd be the first three questions I'd be asking.
Prove that that the site can accommodate the development, the level of development that's proposed. What's useful on here is to demonstrate that it is reflective of the wider master plan that was on the previous slide. So you can already start to see there the potential for the emergence of a sort of east-west corridor through the centre of the site. That would be a pedestrian and cycle route to enable that better connectivity through the site away from the highway or the southern distributor road. And you can see there just almost greyed out slightly on that master plan we're showing.
At this rate, we're just going to become another suburb of Leicester. That's what worries me.
There, where that roundabout already has been constructed. So this application has clearly been with us for some time as the local plan went through its various approval processes. There were various proposals that came forward in terms of the Southern Distributor Road through Homes England and housing infrastructure funding, and you'll see that there's various illustrative master plans over that time that have been submitted as those various plans have altered and changed as we've moved our way through. Discussion around the scheduled monument, which is known as the St Mary's and St Lazarus, which is on the edge of Burton Lazars to the north of Burton Lazars.
We'll have to take a walk up there, or take a ride up there to Burton Lazars and actually do a video on that, a live video. I will probably be able to do that tomorrow. I'll let you know in the morning via a short on my YouTube channel.
That's been considered by the Conservation Officer and it's been considered by Historic England in respect to this planning application. We're in a fairly unusual position with this application because of the amount of history on this site relating to the adopted local plan, that we do already have a plan.
Since when the hell have Melton Borough Council ever give a fuck about history of Melton Mowbray? Let's be honest. Let's be brutally honest. So we've had Ankle Hills Hospital shut down. We've had St Mary's Hospital shut down. We've also had King Edward VIII Upper School flattened. We've had a new college open up there recently. Apparently we're just moving with the times. Then we had the Vigrant cells. They've left us with a door and a couple of windows. And then we are, you know, I just... It's mind-blowing.
Inspector's opinion as to how we should consider
mind-blowing
the impact on those historic assets. I'm not going to read it for you. There's a lot of text up there on the screen, and I think it was actually put back into the report as well, and copied in there for verbatim in respect of the historic.
So I'm just going to pause the video if you want to read that, because I think it's going to go off in a minute. Taken, I'm going to read it myself actually. Taken as the whole of insufficient evidence that the submitted plan proposal further development towards the moon. So if you want to pause the video or go back to this, make sure you pause it, read it. I'm going to carry on with the video.
England comments as well, but it is really helpful in giving members the understanding as to how the Planning Inspectorate is dealing with considering the harm
justification
to the setting of that scheduled ancient monument should this application be approved. If we can move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. So clearly the application was deferred last month because the viability assessments weren't on the public portal. They have now been there for, I think it's about 3 weeks for you to view. Those viability assessments, there was one undertaken by Chester Harcourt for the developer.
Read at the top, 3.5 million for education, including early years, primary, secondary, post 16, and SEN can be used towards, right, they've got to stick to what they're saying. I'd say they need to put the school there first.
As per our usual practice, we then procured a separate consultant to do an independent assessment of that. Those viability assessments have
7.5% affordable housing.
Gone through there, and that's basically assessed that there is around about £3.5 million available to be used for developer contributions or planning obligations, as they're commonly known, should the development go ahead through Section 106. We've liaised with the County Council in that respect in terms of the adopted developer contributions SPD, which sets out our council's priorities as to how Section 106 money should be allocated to.
Now, I'm pretty sure Section 106 money is supposed to be what you call ring-fenced. Now, if you want to go onto Google and look up what ring-fenced actually means, it means it can't be used for anything else. Again, also the levelling up money, I'm pretty sure that was ring-fenced as well, but that seems to have disappeared. Odd.
Various infrastructure should there be a viability issue that is identified, and the County Council has requested that all of that £3.5 million is dedicated towards education. That includes primary, secondary, special educational needs, and post-16 education and early years too. But that also does allow 7.5% affordable housing to be delivered on the site, which is half the policy requirement amount, which is similar to that which has been determined elsewhere in Melton.
Well, why haven't they gone for the 15%?
In recent years. I'm aware that members at the briefing raised a query around whether a late stage review mechanism could be applied to this application. That hasn't been proposed at the present time, and that's an ability essentially for later on during the build, should this application be approved, that there could be a reassessment of the viability at a later state to say whether things have actually changed. As time goes on, obviously the economy moves on and build costs change, sale prices change. That is a possibility should members decide that that is something that they would wish to pursue in terms of a Section 106 and that late stage review mechanism in that Section 106. And that is obviously sits with yourselves as the decision makers. If I could have the next slide, please.
Shout out to Melton Mafia.
The application is in outline with all matters except the access reserved for up to 175 dwellings. The site's allocated in the Melton South Sustainable Neighbourhood under policy SS4 in the adopted Melton local plan, and it is a residentially led development going forwards. Officers are of the opinion that the development is in accordance with that approved master plan. The heritage aspects in respect of Historic England's objection have been dealt with by the local plan inspector, concluding that the proposed benefits outweigh the harms of the development. In terms of the highway,
So there's nothing new here that we haven't already heard.
Currently under construction and due to be
Clarification questions?
But actually, it's paramount to policy C4 in terms of the numbers.
Councillor Atherton?
Thank you, Chair. Could we just clarify whether this is an application in Burton Lazars or in Melton Mowbray? I know it's the Melton South Sustainable Neighbourhood, but is it actually in Melton Mowbray? And I believe it falls outside the town boundaries, or is it as per the documentation in Burton Lazars?
It'll connect Melton to it.
But actually, it's paramount to policy C4 in terms of the numbers of affordable housing. If the application is as per the documentation in Burton Lazars, it falls under value area 1, which calls for 70 affordable houses, rather than the 26 called for if it's in Melton Mowbray. That's part of the sustainable.
So basically what he's asking there, for anybody that doesn't know, is does this area that wants to be given planning permission when they collect on the section 106s, if you read the statement there, it says it can be up to 15% of affordable houses given to Melton Borough Council or someone like a housing association. So that would be 21 houses at 7%. But if it falls out of the Melton area, that's 70 houses. That's quite interesting and well spotted by this gentleman here, Ian Atherton.
Neighbourhood. So it may seem like a minor point, but it's quite significant in terms of the viability assessment.
Definitely.
No such thing as a minor point in this committee. Councillor Atherton, could I ask Sarah to answer that?
Thank you, Chair. So the site address was automatically generated using the mapping coordinates when the application was first submitted back in 2015. So that resulted in the reference to Burton Lazars, which is a postal naming convention rather than a planning designation as such. So for planning purposes, the site is clearly on the edge of the existing town boundary, but it's being assessed under the Melton Local Plan Policy SS4. So the Melton the South Sustainable Neighbourhood has its own policy in the plan. So that naming has no bearing on the planning process, the decision making or the weight given to local policies. SS4 has its own section in terms of the requirements for affordable housing, which is 15% is the policy requirement for the Melton South Sustainable Neighbourhood.
Thank you very much. One final clarification. The section 106 payments in full is some 6.5 million. Are we saying that we're only going?
Yeah, you want to be collecting on that 6.5 million. Now it'd be interesting just to know how much hasn't been collected, wouldn't it, via Melton Borough Council falling down to section 106s. Really interesting. And again, Guildstream, Stockyard, all the rest of the stuff that's going on at the moment. It's extremely interesting.
Going to get the 3.5 million for education and not get any of the rest of it.
Thank you, Councillor Atherton. Yes, so the viability assessment has been fully assessed by an independent professional who's gone through both the applicant's assessment and then done their independent assessment of it, and they've concluded that there's, I think it's just over £3.5 million that's available from this particular development.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Atherton. Are you satisfied with the answers? Thank you.
Now, if anybody knows in the comments, can somebody tell me how they decide the amount of money that gets collected by Section 106s. Who makes the amount, and how does that come together? Because I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm satisfied that you're satisfied. Anyone else on the committee wishes to ask questions of clarification? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for the report, and thank you for the questions, Councillor. We'll now move on to the speakers for the evening. And on my list, the first speaker is a member of the public, Steve Jackson, whether they're in the room or not. Thank you. And they're speaking and seeking a variation. Would you like to step up to the...
Your time and attention, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. If we could call upon Lexi Dones, is it? I'm sorry if I pronounced the name incorrectly. Principal Town Planner from Pegasus Group, agent for the site, and we're speaking for the development. Thank you. Once again, you'll see a face on the button. But just ask who the person is before we start performing.
Yeah, of course. So this is Sue Bridge from Davidson's group, and we had a prior arrangement that Sue would sit with me to help answer questions today because I'm standing in for a colleague. So that was
Now, there's a lot of people in that public gallery, isn't there? Now, I've got a feeling this is something to do with the solar panels. Keep your eye on this. I'm going to play it all the way through, see what this lady says, and we'll go from there.
arranged previously.
Okay, Adam, recorded that. Okay, well, thank you. That'll be fine. Okay, thank you very much. But you do realise you've still got 3 minutes. You're bringing an army of people. It's still 3 minutes, unfortunately. But just to go on from that, you see a button in the middle. You're probably used to that. Press the button. You have 3 minutes from the time you start speaking, and you get a 30-second warning. But thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. My name is Lexi Dones, and I'm here from Pegasus Group. I'm speaking today on behalf of Davidson's, a local family-owned house builder, and in support of this scheme. As your officers have highlighted, this application falls within an allocated site in the adopted Melton local plan. The site will effectively form phase 1 of the Melton South Sustainable Neighbourhood, an allocation that has already, through the local plan process, been examined in detail, including but not limited to potential impacts on local heritage, traffic, ecology and infrastructure. In terms of benefits, this development will deliver much needed new homes in line with the Council's housing trajectory, including on-site affordable housing in accordance with the vision for Melton Mowbray in the adopted local plan. It will contribute over 3.5 million in Section 106 contributions, and it will provide public open space, sustainable drainage, and the first section of the linear park, which will connect this site and the wider Melton South Sustainable Neighbourhood to local services. Whilst the application in front of you today is for a small part of the wider Melton South Sustainable Neighbourhood, the intention is that this application will begin to unlock the delivery of the development and ultimately contribute towards the provision of around 2,000 new homes, a new primary school, a new local centre with shops and services, employment land, green infrastructure, and open space, and of course the southern section of the Melton Mowbray Distributor Road. Careful consideration will be given to boundaries of adjacent residential properties at the reserve matters stage. The proposed access is taken directly from the recently completed Melton Mowbray Distributor Road roundabout on Burton Road. The roundabout has capacity to support 175 homes without any further highways improvements, which is why this application has been submitted at that scale. The local highway authority has fully assessed the application and confirmed that it...
I'm just going to stop a second. The application was originally submitted back in 2021.
...is acceptable in terms of highway impacts and pedestrian safety and will not cause congestion on the local road network. Davidson's understand the importance of the scheduled monument of St Mary and St Lazarus to the south of the site. Whilst Historic England continue to object on this basis, This matter was the subject of extensive examination during the local plan process, where the inspector concluded that any harm from development here would fall well short of substantial harm and is clearly outweighed by the benefits of
You have 30 seconds left.
the sustainable neighbourhood and its supporting infrastructure. Through reserve matters, sensitive design and landscaping will ensure the setting of the monument is respected. In addition to there being no objection from the local highway authority, there are also no objections from any other statutory consultees to this application. All technical consultees are satisfied that issues such as highways, drainage, archaeology and ecology can be properly addressed through conditions, with the exception of historic England. Members, this is a sustainable and carefully planned development, delivering new homes and infrastructure in the right location.
Time.
Thank you.
Would you like to stay there for a little while? And I'll ask members if there are any questions.
You only get a certain amount of time to talk.
Going back to the historic England, obviously they wouldn't retract what they put.
So this is Councillor Sharon Butcher. I think she's part of the Historic England. She has a lot to do with the history of Melton and stuff like that and all that sort of stuff.
Did you say you're going to build some greenery around to protect that monument? Is that so that you can't see it, so it separates it from the housing?
Well, it's supposed to be seen, isn't it? I think.
Just trying to picture how you mean.
It's there to be seen.
The housing stands quite a long way.
Could you get close to the microphone, please?
The housing is some distance from the boundary with the scheduled ancient monument. There's a field in between, and then you have roundabout 6, which is now being constructed, and there's a significant amount of landscaping that goes with that scheme that's already been approved. And then with the application, if you look at the plan, which has disappeared, there will be a bund on the southern boundary of the site which will be landscaped, and that is required as part of the noise mitigation anyway for the Southern Distributor Road when that eventually gets built. So there'll be plenty of landscaping between the
I don't know what it is, but I've got a feeling this meeting's going to heat up a little bit in a bit.
The ancient monument and the housing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Are you okay with that, Councillor Butcher? Okay, thank you. Anyone else would like to ask a question? Just one question I'd like to ask. You've heard the last speaker, and I would like to consider over time
playing around with my new camera.
The design will be communicated and indeed transmitted and influenced by the people in and around the site, but we'll perhaps move on to that in the debate, if that's okay.
So just so people know, there's 19 people watching this actual stream. It's just gone up to 20. I've probably got about 6. Mine's more exciting. Get your asses over here and watch it.
Thank you very much. If you'd like to
cut through all the bullshit.
Vacate the chair.
So I think we've got another speaker coming up now. This is how democracy works, folks. Proper debate.
I've not got the temerity to say what you have to do because you've been here before, I think. So over to you.
Is that Alan Thwaites?
Thank you, Chair.
Wow. I thought he was... now, is this for the same one? I thought he was supposed to have left the room, but...
I appreciate the demands of the current and past governments on the numbers of house builds Melton Borough Council are obliged to build, hence the wider Melton plan of which this estate is part of.
Not obliged. I wouldn't say obliged.
Therefore, I find it difficult to object to the principle of this outline application alongside the future wider development of the Southern Relief Road. I fully understand that this application is for outline only, so many of my requests address the committee's other responsibilities of enhancing our community with a minimum of impact to residents. I will unusually make requests by condition for the preparation and requirements of the future detailed application should this application be successful. This request is based on the fact that this is a major and prestigious gateway into our town and community. Unusually, this new development will be immediately adjacent to the boundaries of long-established residences. There is a need for further archaeological surveys in this important site. And finally, due to the local government reorganisation, this committee may not be the committee that considers the detailed application in the future.
Now, I'm glad he's actually brought that up. All I can say is credit where credit is due.
The residents I represent this evening are those along Burton Road and Kirby Lane. All properties will lose their current open aspect, but as we know, unfortunately, this is not a material planning consideration. The committee will...
So they haven't sort of taken into consideration residents and the effect these new build homes will have on the local community that's already there. Now, I'm from that end of town as well. I used to live up that end of town myself for years, and it is quite a tight-knit community, if I'm honest, and it looks like there's quite a few of the community there.
People have noticed on their site visit that unusually these long-established properties will have new builds directly connecting with their boundaries with no separation. This is a unique or at least rare situation which I believe needs special consideration. While the indicative site plan is a good improvement on the initial plans, this obviously may change in the future, and that plan has already changed to move the 175 properties into a smaller area. So I'm asking the committee that by condition the developers commit to the following. The developers will use the indicative layout presented as a starting point for a design consultation with the 11 most affected properties. The design consultation with all affected residents will agree design, layout and positioning of new build properties adjacent to their properties. Reasonable example requests are all adjacent buildings are single storey with a restriction on any living accommodation above ground floor. The direction and layout of new builds are altered to reduce overlooking. And as a principle, there will be a 5 metre building exclusion with the existing property boundaries. The design review will form the basis of the detailed future application should it come forward. To ensure all shallow graves, including the two already found, are identified and treated with respect, I also urge that the committee add a requirement for further archaeological investigation in this site, which is adjacent to the nationally important site of St Mary and St Lazarus. Finally, to prevent urban shock that is experienced on other approaches to the town on this major gateway, that there are constraints placed on the application to design an agreed approach and maintain the current impression of entering what we proudly describe as the rural capital of food, while maintaining the separation from Burton Lazarus.
Yeah, rural capital of food. We just had a new pie shop open. That's card only, no cash. Bad decision.
Thank you very much. Bang on time.
Thank you very much.
I expect.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
So, would the question from Councillor Arnott?
Thank you, Chair. And Chair, can I be quite honest? I couldn't quite catch all of that. Have you written to our officers with those requests? That's the first question.
No, because it's outlined, so there's a need for a change. If it had been detailed planning, yes, I would have done.
So the essential ask is that we put a condition on tonight that we have a design contact group. What do you call it? I've forgotten what you call it.
A design consultation, as we've done with other
that would embrace all those questions. Yeah. So that. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Thank you, Councillor. I think we'll come again. This will obviously come again in debate. I'll ask for officer's advice on this, on whether you actually can do that on this application at this point. So, if you could just leave it there, that would be. But we will explore that. Thank you. Anyone else would like to offer up words of wisdom, Councillor Butcher?
Can you just say the bit again about the what you was asking for about the monument?
Oh yeah, in as you have read in the reports that 2 shallow graves were found on this site, which is called Field 1. and I would like that there is a bigger archaeological survey to make sure there are no other graves and that those graves are treated with respect. I think they're Roman graves from reading
Wow.
archaeologists. So, and it was quite interesting reading that.
Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to ask Councillor Waite's questions related to the application?
On the way to the Iron Age Hill Fort, Borough Hill. Could be Saxon.
No, thank you. And thank you, Councillor Thwaite. Would you like to leave the room now, please? I've often wanted to say that to you. But then...
Yeah. I think he resides somewhere up that side of Melton, so that makes sense. I thought they had to leave the room.
Debate,
I was
before
right.
we go to debate, can I just say just one thing, and we may need to touch on this throughout there's two issues for me here. One is the a community engagement that's been well rehearsed. I've got nothing to say about that.
It's been rehearsed.
And also the affordability and viability statement that we've all read. I would like us to debate and consider most strongly that we do have a late review within the viability test, and perhaps that could be brought out through the debate. Thank you. But if anyone would like to open, Councillor Butcher, thank you.
Yeah. As I always seem to mention it, the contribution towards the 106. I'd like to see some for the primary care.
Let's see some guarantees.
And not just education, although education is important.
As I understand it, and I'll ask the officer in a moment, the negotiations regarding Section 106 are long and tortuous. I'm aware of that. The problem with Section 106 is that once you start renegotiating...
That you don't collect on them. That's the problem with 106s and Melton Borough Council. They don't collect on them. We wouldn't be in all this crap that we're in if they did.
Renegotiate everything. It's not just, can we slice them off and put it there? You start off with a clean sheet, and sometimes you don't get what you want. And I'll just put that out there. It's been, I think we've got away quite nicely with it.
I think you're not negotiating hard enough then.
Going to education, I think education needs it very badly in Melton. I have to say my daughter goes to school in Melton, so I can speak quite open about that. But I would like to hear from the officer what they considered regarding Section 106. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the Council has an adopted Developer Contributions SPD, which stands for a Supplementary Planning Document. That document was adopted towards the end of 2021, and it was part of a package of items, for want of a better phrase, that were put together to enable us to support the County Council and to deliver the Melton Mowbray Distributor Road. So within that Developer Contributions...
So has this all got something to do with the bypass, or are they just trying to fob it off onto the bypass?
SPD, there is a table, and that basically, to summarise or paraphrase, gets us to a point that says if there are any viability issues with planning applications going forwards, that's the way that we would distribute payment that is available. So priority one in that is education, so including all of the types of education, early years right the way through to post-16, and strategic highways, they're classed as priority one. Then we go on to priority 2A, 2B, 2C, and in priority 2A it's affordable housing, and then it kind of cascades down through those requirements, all classed as being essential infrastructure to support development. So that SPD is in place, and that is your adopted policy, and that is essentially how this report has been written to you, is reflecting that adopted policy position in terms of how you should be.
So I'm just going to go through a couple of the comments. I don't know whether you can see them on the screen down the bottom here, but I'll read them out anyway. Melton Mafia says someone's taken, let's have a look. Look at Pickwell in the public gallery, mate. And then it says how out of touch are they? Melton Borough Council is set, so LCC say. So basically what he's saying is LCC will have the final final say on anything that goes on at Melton Borough Council anyway, because they haven't got as many powers as what LCC have.
Allocating funding that is available for Section 106 where there is a viability issue that's been identified.
How many people we got watching?
So it does reflect policy. If I just ask before bringing council on, can I just ask you if you would like to follow up on that, Councillor Butcher? Or would you like to think about it and come back? Thank you. Councillor Arnott.
Chair, thank you. As we've opened the discussion on this particular point, I won't say what I was going to say on the other points just yet. I'll hang back. I'll go straight to the 106 issue. So I agree with Councillor Butcher that there is scope here for departing from the SPD partially, notwithstanding your wise words, and that it would be within scope. And if I can just turn to my notes to remind me of why this is the case. And they've taken that view because they say that this particular application does not have highways problems in terms of the MMDR South. So that's what they say. So we fall back on the SPD. Now, this was produced before most of us were even on this council application, but we haven't come, in a sense, we're putting the cart before the horse. Can I say something about the viability as well at this stage, or do you want me to come back on that?
Sorry, Councillor, if we can just deal with this Section 106. I don't want to mislead you. I'm not unsympathetic to that view that you just espoused. I've got, as you know, I'm very sympathetic towards it. But I'd just like to know at this stage, I'm at a loss to know how to carry it forward. I just want to bring in Sarah, the planning officer for this scheme, just to suggest, is there a way forward? And if there is a way forward, what that way forward might be.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, you developer contributions SPD that reflects the policy of the Melton Local Plan, and that sets out your prioritisation for the Section 106 planning obligations. It is, of course, within members' gift to depart from policy should you feel that there's material considerations that indicate that you should do. And that is your prerogative as the decision-making body. So if you are content that you have set out your reasons why that should be the case, then that is, like I say, your prerogative as decision makers.
Let's catch up with the meeting.
Plan with regard to the way that deliveries are forthcoming to the site and one thing and another. So I do think, again, there's a check and balance in the system which actually covers these objections for the construction period of the site ongoing. This, whether or not there's weight limits on roads, is not a part and parcel of this application, and I really do think we should move on.
If you're insisting, I'm happy to move the recommendations with the amendment that I've already stated then.
Yes, can I just, Councillor Gordon, and then we'll move on to.
One of the things I wanted to bring up was sometimes there was construction traffic. I think it was last year, and there was a lot of problems with big lorries.
Now, I'd just like to sort of pipe in here. Basically, construction traffic and things like that. They basically try and come down small roads with massive, great big vehicles, of which a particular person I know has just had their car pranged by one of these vehicles. And if you've got any building going on around your area, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. How the insurance actually look for that and everything else, considering there's hardly, very rarely any CCTV footage or doorbell footage and things like that, can cause a lot of people a lot of problems. So let's go back to Councillor Gordon and see what Councillor Gordon actually says about this, because I find that part of it very interesting.
Going along Valley Road and Edendale Road. and there was a lot of complaints about it. Then we thought we'd get it finished and, we get it sorted, and then they started coming down there again. Now, the thing is, and I think this is to do with county as well, is to have signposts to say that construction traffic shouldn't come down, but...
I'm sorry, Councillor, but this is this directly associated?
It could be, yes.
Oh, well,
it could be. Yeah.
There's lots of coulds in
yeah. Well, it's just that I just wondered about getting signposts. And
Yeah, coulda, shoulda, woulda. Let the woman talk, mate. Jesus.
there was a lot of problems with not having them, which would be good if we could.
Hopefully that would be teased out during the construction management plan.
Yeah, hopefully.
Which would take care of this.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can put some sort of directive, within our planning document to direct the developer in that direction.
It's just that they seem to be flaunting it. They just seem to be cutting across there anyway when they shouldn't be doing it, and they know they shouldn't.
I can't help people that flaunt, Councillor. But I would like to move on. I would like to understand what proposals they'd like to put forward over and above the recommendation with regard to, if you like, design, a late stage review, and indeed your point, Councillor, on it.
Well, if you want to put it into words, I would say that paragraph 2 should be amended so that the amount attributed to the education contribution is reduced to 3,428,184.14 pence. So it goes down from 3.5 to 3.4, and the addition of a primary care contribution of £100,000, and then so that would be the amendment there, and then to add in
So a good point just made by Melton Mafia. They keep filling the education pot, but what we need is a new GP surgery. But what I will say is we also need the GPs to put in those surgeries. Now, recently a friend has just basically tried to get an appointment, and they're going to be waiting until next year. That's how bad it's actually got. We've got GPs leaving the surgery. This is all under the Labour government and everything else. Now, before this all sort of came to a head, there was long waiting lists for doctors' appointments anyway, and the reason doctors are leaving is because they're not paying them. Well, there's junior doctors that have basically keep asking for pay rises and things like this. If you can get a job abroad that's going to pay you double the amount of money, it makes common sense that you're going to go to that job. It's all right as building a new GP surgery in a shop in town, because that's what's going to happen. It was in the Melton Times. Who are you going to get to run that surgery? Where are these doctors coming from? Because I'm pretty sure they're not coming over on the boats, are they? Because none of those are doctors, surgeons, architects, lawyers, or anything like that. So where are these doctors actually coming from? I mean, do you know how long it takes to train a doctor to become a fully qualified doctor? Just saying. Let's carry on.
A late stage review is included as a point 3. And then the fourth point was the point raised by the ward member in terms that I can't quite repeat, but I'm sure the officers have got it written down. It was for...
Are we talking about the archaeology for the graves?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. If I can just respond on the archaeology point, there are already 2 conditions on the application, which are at 15.17 and 15.18 of your report. So there has already been a written scheme of investigation undertaken, a field walking survey dated the 28th of April 2017, and then further trial trenching that was undertaken and reported in August 2017 as well. The challenge, I suppose, so the second condition is that a programme of archaeological mitigation.
We'll have to take a walk up to this site, I think, and go and have a look at this monument and see what this is all about tomorrow. That's my plan for tomorrow, and I might do a live on it. We'll see what this is all about, because I'd like to know where this archaeological site is. I know there's one been recently up at Bartholomew's Church, somewhere up there. I don't know if there's any planning permission actually available for up there or going on up there. But it looks like we're going to be getting a lot more houses being built and some more estates for me to walk around doing live videos on.
Informed by those reports, needs to be prepared and implemented and submitted. And
we can't take
further
this.
Archaeological works are very expensive, have not been required by the archaeologist, so they're satisfied that enough has been done to mitigate that, and could quite severely adversely impact upon that viability of the scheme, and therefore when we get to a late stage review mechanism there might be even less.
In my opinion, history is more important than you putting a few houses and people on that site, and the people of Melton are more important than that as well.
I don't know. Oh, go on, Jim.
I've been signalled prior to that by Councillor Butcher, but I will come back. Yeah. I'll go back.
Yeah, could we add on about what the gentleman said about the buffer and the condition for the design consultation with the neighbours?
Is that appropriate?
Thank you, Chair. So there is a condition already within your reports. So we're back at 15, part 15 of your report. So condition 14 and 15 in particular. So condition 14 requires a landscape and ecological management plan, including long-term design objectives, management responsibilities and maintenance schedules for all landscaped areas to be submitted. As previously advised, I'd be very careful about suggesting a specific size of type of buffer, and I would suggest that your policies that you already have in your design of development SPD and policy D1 of your local plan are sufficient in terms of protecting the residential amenity and privacy of existing residents. I can't condition a requirement for consultation with particular residents going forward, and that doesn't meet the tests to be a planning condition. However, the developer is here, you've seen them, they've heard you very loud and clear, we have heard you loud and clear, and we can ensure that that consultation through any kind of pre-application process that residents are involved insofar as they can be along that process. And obviously there's the statutory consultation processes that must take place before we can determine a planning application as well.
Are you content with that, Councillor Butcher? Thank you. Councillor Adcock, and then, sorry, Councillor Adcock, and then I'll move on to proposal as it stands.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, we're talking about changing the figures. If we change the figures now, can we change them again? And if so, when?
That's a question for my officer to my right, I believe. I can't answer that.
Thank you, Chair. So the section 106, if you agree to this planning application, will set that out into exactly what you stated that money should be allocated to. The late stage review mechanism essentially would be at a point in time when the development is being delivered on site, so we have accurate sale prices, accurate build costs, etc., to be able to reassess the amount that is potentially available. What
happened to the skill of actually being able to barter? It seems to have been a forgotten skill that nobody seems to have anymore to do with these section 106s. Again, we've got like people down at the council that seem to me in some ways don't have the full knowledge. Now, I certainly haven't, and I never claim to have. I don't claim to be intelligent at all. But I would barter a lot harder than what these people are down in that council meeting at the moment. I mean, they're talking about figures and everything else. Can it be came back to? If you've got a contract on something and that contract is signed, that contract should be sealed and done before anything else, unless there's a clause in the contract that actually can make it reopenable, I believe. And again, I don't know how much of this, what section 106 money is actually ring fenced and things like that. Like I said before, I don't pretend to know everything about it, but I know that the people of Melton Mowbray are sick and tired of Melton Borough Council basically making up excuse after excuse after excuse when Leicestershire County Council have got some powers in this as well and everything else. We don't want to become another suburb of Leicester. We just don't. And whether it will happen, we'll see.
What the council doesn't have the opportunity of doing is then changing where we
Yeah.
decide that money should be spent, unless we can get the developer to agree to a deed of variation
Well, that money would be ring-fenced, wouldn't it?
to that Section 106 agreement. So that is set today. There's nothing to say that they wouldn't necessarily agree to that change, but that would have to, it's obviously has costs associated with it in terms of legal agreements being redrawn, and it would be in negotiation with the developer as well.
We need better negotiators. And people that, you know, aren't just going to turn around and say, like in the last meeting, we're going to talk about writing off this debt. Shouldn't write off any debt. You should fucking collect on the debt. It's all right collecting off residents. As soon as you don't pay council tax for 1 week, that's it. Use a letter on your doormat the next bloody day. They're soon to get on top of that.
Thank you for that. The debate closes. So are you proposing...
Let's see what the vote now. There was rumours that this had already been voted on and that was already been a decision made. Whether that's true or not, as I said before, that's conspiracy. I don't do conspiracy personally. But at the end of the day, when we hear these things, what are you supposed to think? I mean, really? You know what I mean? So let's see what the vote will be. I don't know whether they're going to let this planning permission go ahead or not. It'll be very interesting. Let's have a look.
Of this with the amendments as you've outlined, Councillor?
With the amendments, except that I won't go forward with the archaeological one on the basis that we've been advised that this will be quite expensive and may come off during a reassessment of...
Because you ain't got the fucking money. That's why. Just say it as it is. Instead of the blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah, you ain't got the money.
Viability, it will reduce the quantum for 106. And to be quite frank, I'm not so fussed about digging up Roman graves. I'd rather have a surgery for mums who are pregnant mums, frankly. And I would say that to Alan quite bluntly. I think it's a choice, and my choice would be stick with the present. We've done quite a lot for archaeology recently.
So you proposed that with the amendment, and I'll just give...
Imogen.
But I'll just take one comment from Councillor Gordon.
I think it's really important to put that down. Archaeology, it's really important for the history, and we've got a lot of history in Melton that we've still got to discover, and I think we should put that down in the amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. But I think you'll find that that's already covered in the conditions. With regard...
Is it just me, or does he not seem to like her much? The way he talks, it's just the tone that he uses with Miss Gordon. I don't like it.
Archaeology, this goes above and beyond that, but I do think the conditions as laid out within the planning document do cover that, Councillor Gordon. So I'm quite prepared to leave that as it is. So I do have a proposal. Have I seconded it? Councillor Sharp will second it.
I think it's been quite rude.
So I'll read out what the conditions will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So what I've noted down, Councillor Arnott, in terms of your proposal is essentially approve in accordance with the report, so the conditions as listed in there, and then the Section 106, essentially exactly as it states, but you're reducing the education contribution by exactly £100,000, and that...
Oh, reducing the contribution by £100,000. Now that's interesting.
Has to be towards primary care instead, so the NHS essentially for primary care in Melton Mowbray. And the way that Section 106 is normally worded for primary care is that it is just considered for primary care rather than specifying exactly where it goes, but for primary care within Melton Mowbray. So
this isn't ring fenced then? Would a ring fenced budget be for just the NHS or just education?
And a late stage, I can put my teeth back in, a late stage review mechanism.
Or can this be changed before the Section 106 is actually collected? up
Are you
on.
happy with that, Councillor Arnott? Any comment?
Just on that, if it going to LCC and it gets turned down, how do we stand then? Because it's turned.
This is what I was talking about. LCC having the power, and this is wrong. Melton is a town of its own. Why does this has to go to fucking LCC? This is what pisses me off.
You proposed.
It almost makes it pointless having this meeting at the cost of the taxpayer if LCC are just going to make a decision on whatever it is they want anyway. What is the sodding point? That's like, let's ask mummy and daddy, isn't it? Like, Melton Council can't be trusted with anything.
The contributions, that's set by usually LCC, isn't it? Which Pip says we can alter. But if it's if they turn it down because we've altered it, is it legal to? Or it doesn't matter? That's all I just wanted to find out. That was all.
Tom just said it's clear that it's our decision to do so. We happy? Right, can the proposer, I have a seconder, can I have a show of hands to approve the application, please?
Here we go.
It's unanimous, apart from who abstains from that. Thank you.
So somebody across this side abstained.
Thank you very much for listening to that. We'll collect our chairman, bring him back in, and he can sit in his chair. But if you want a comfort break for 5 minutes, please take one. And can we be back here when that clock says past, please? Thank you.
So what I'm going to do is pause the video and we'll go to the comments. So we've had quite a few comments here. I don't know whether you can see all of them, but we'll start from the top. Well, all right, we won't start from the top because that's just people saying hi. So we'll start from, looks like Pickwell in the public gallery, mate. Yeah, that's what I thought it was, all the people behind there. I find that quite interesting. It's obviously quite a hot subject. If it was me that lived in a area like that and there was going to be lots of new houses built, I'd want to know exactly what it is that's happening, because it's going to actually affect the people of that area quite substantially. And obviously they're going to be moving a lot more people into Melton. This is going to be unavoidable. We don't need more housing. The fact is we need more infrastructure. And Leicestershire County Council throttle Melton Borough Council into putting all these houses and everything else into Melton without the bloody infrastructure. I mean, if you're waiting 3 to 4 months for a sodding doctor's appointment, that tells me there's something seriously wrong. So what do the council do? Let's put more frickin' houses on. And that should not be the case. But Latham House is badly managed practice and they don't want to work there. Yeah, totally agree with that. I've got to 100% agree with that. Again, we've got doctors leaving. Doctors leaving that practice, going to other practices, probably moving abroad for better pay. I mean, can you blame them? It doesn't make very good business sense if you're not going to be doing that, does it? So what are they going to do? Open up another doctor's surgery and just leave it empty? I mean, we've got a hospital round the back there where the old St Mary's was and everything else, which doesn't get used much or enough. That could be a brilliant hospital. But what have they done? Absolutely nothing. You go there with a broken arm, they tell you to go to Loughborough to get it sodding well x-rayed, which in my opinion is sodding ridiculous. I've got some more comments here. I can't bring them up on the screen, but I will do. They have been in position of... They have been in a position of over... They're a bit blah, blah, blah. They have been in position for over 2 years now. Pip's still winging it. Yeah, maybe. I'll totally agree with that as well. She's only just worked out. You can change the policy. Yeah. She, he, even. Don't go misgendering people, mate. We'll call it they, them. Couple more comments down the bottom here. I think we can see other people are commenting. Yes, I do. Yes, I agree. He is very, very rude. I'm going to take us over to the chat just here. He is rude, yeah. The way he talks to Miss Gordon, I think that's a little bit, uncalled for. He should let her talk. She's been there a long time. She's a, you know, she's a knowledgeable woman. I like her. We've got somebody that's put some colours of the Union Jack. I hope you like my Union Jack behind me. It's just here, which I put up especially for this video. It will be staying up. Let's go back to there. It's going to be a long night. Yeah. You can and are correct. Re 106. Totally agree. We'll take it back here. We can move forward. And I think that may be the beginning of the end of the meeting, but they're back. Let's crack on.
And we will move into application 24/01038/FUL. The land at
FUL.
And I think we'll call Max to make the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. Members may recall that...
So this is the Pickwell land at Staygate Lane. Staygate Lane near Pickwell. This is why all the people are actually there. This is what we've been waiting for. I don't know if this is to do with, one second, an application for ground monitored solar farm. Yes, it's to do with the solar farm. Wow. Now this falls into, let me get back onto my screen, this falls into the net zero. Why we're actually following this, I honestly do not know. Net zero is a myth. It's bullshit. It's conspiracy theory. And when you've got people in government actually pushing for this, it's basically just to steal farmers' land. That's what it is. And they say that they're for farmers in Melton Mowbray. Melton is a very rural capital. We're meant to be the rural capital of food. This also falls into the stockyard as well, doesn't it? And Gilstream and all what's going on there, and Melton Town Estate and all that sort of stuff. There's going to be a video coming on that, so keep your eye out for it. It's very interesting. But like I said, let's crack on with the video, because otherwise we'll never get to the bloody end of it, and I'm feeling quite tired. Can't imagine why.
We consider this application at our meeting in August.
That is a big site.
It was debated at some length and deferred for further consideration and clarification on certain...
Now what I do know is Pickwell do not want this. They do not want this solar farm up there.
Objectives and policies that were listed by councillors, and those are addressed in the updated revised report that's before you this evening. So just to refresh our memories of the main points, the site is land at Staygate Lane near Pickwell. It's a full application for ground-mounted photovoltaic solar farm with a capacity of up to 49.99 megawatts, so that's just below the current limit of 50 that can be considered by a local planning authority, with associated equipment, infrastructure and ancillary works. Next slide, please.
We've been through all of these before.
And just to remind us of what a modern...
We've actually been through all of these before.
There's a condition to require grazing on the site, most likely by...
So basically what they're saying is they want to put a load of solar panels in, there'll be hedges about this high so you can't see this from the road, and blah de blah de blah de blah. Sheep grazing, beehives, walkways, 2 flower bed areas and all the rest of it. It was really, really boring. The fact is the residents do not want it there.
Sheep. And also to require a strategy for beehives on the site. Those would be in the wildflower meadows. And bird boxes, bat boxes, log piles for invertebrates and so on.
What they could do is they could do all this and just not put the solar panels there. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Proposed. There'd be 4 types of grass. One would be a wildflower meadow mix. There'd also be a species-rich grass around the perimeters of the solar arrays, a grazing mix for the sheep grazing among the solar arrays, and amenity grass in the garden area. Thank you. Just to show you in more detail, you can see that triangular area above. That's where the community garden, orchard and foraging area would be. You can see it shown in more detail there, and you can also see
That is bloody massive.
the purple dashed line, which shows you where the public right-of-way, the public footpath, passes through. Thank you.
I believe a decision on this has already been made. Again, I do not know, but that is.
A councillor did ask me for some specific information about what proposals are for the public footpath. This is the public footpath. It doesn't cover the additional permissive paths that are also proposed. So the length of it is 1.1 kilometres as it passes through the site. So typically at a typical pace that would take you 10 or 15 minutes to pass through. The width, the path itself would be 2 metres wide with 4 metre wide verges of wildflowers and grass on either side. So that's at least 10 metres width between the hedges that would flank it. I was asked about the space on the other side of the hedge or fence and the nearest arrays on the other side. At the moment, we have indicative layout plans, so I can't give you a precise figure, but I can tell you that it's normal practice for the developer to leave typically 5 metres, and that's really for their own convenience. They need to get around the solar arrays to maintain them and to ensure that they're not overshadowed. And I was asked about the significance.
I was pretty sure last meeting that he turned around and said they're very low maintenance.
Of the public right-of-way. It's a local public right-of-way, it's a local footpath. Public footpath is not part of a long distance or regional route. And regarding the maintenance, there is a condition at the end of the report which is recommended to require the submission of a final landscape and environment management plan, which would set out, we have an indicative one at the moment, but to require a final one, and the condition would require compliance with that as regards maintenance of the hedges, maintenance of the paths and so on. But the proposal is to grow the hedges to 3 metres tall and to maintain them at that height. Thank you. And just to remind ourselves of where the parking spaces would be, these are shown by the green star and the...
Yeah, how much is parking? And will they collect on it? Will there be 3 weeks free parking? Sorry, I had to put that in.
Yellow star on Stygate Lane. There would be 4 parking spaces.
60,000 quid.
This for use by members of the public who want to visit the site, use the permissive footpaths, use the new fitness facilities that are proposed there, the dog agility course, visit the garden or the orchard, and so on. So 2 pairs of parking spaces. The green star is opposite where the existing wind turbine is, and that would be fitted with electric vehicle charging points for 2 cars, which would be free for the public to use. And there's a condition to ensure that they would be free. And the yellow star is for 2 parking spaces for ordinary vehicles. Thank you.
So electric cars, let's get into the conversation of electric cars when they're going mining for the lithium ion and everything else, and once all these solar panels are already buggered, because they will be buggered over years to come, they will be sort of needing more than maintenance, they'll need replacing. What happens to the solar panel after that? And is it as green as what they make it out to be? No, it isn't. And neither is lithium ion. This is a fad.
I'd like to draw your attention to 2 errors in the report. I do apologise for these. The report is
the most relevant policy for Melton Borough Council local plan is an EN10,
for you in August,
which is considered
revised,
to be the.
But there were 2 paragraphs that escaped my attention when I revised it. Those are 13.3 and 13.5, and this is the corrected text. So 13.3 should read. The most relevant policy in the Melton local plan is EN10, which is considered to be broadly still applicable, despite being more than 5 years old. This is consistent with the view that was taken earlier this year by an appeal inspector and by the Secretary.
Stop it there. Corrected text for planning 13.5 hyphen. For those reasons, it is recommended that planning permission to be granted, subject to appropriate and necessary conditions. So what they're basically turning around and saying is, we've had some advice to Melton Borough Council, right? We've got some advice for you. You'd better grant this planning permission because we've had it from You know what I'd say to that? Fuck off.
State had called an inquiry appeal for a solar farm application in this borough, and the corrected text for paragraph 38.5 should say, for these reasons, it's recommended that planning permission be granted, subject to appropriate and necessary conditions. Thank you.
What are the necessary conditions?
And just to remind ourselves that the National Planning Policy Framework, most recently updated in December of last year, says that when determining planning applications for all forms of renewable and low carbon energy developments and their associated...
Now remember that down at Melton Borough Council is run by mostly Labour and everything else, and they've got this net zero bullshit thing going on at the moment as well. This seems to me like the people wanting the planning for this are basically telling Melton Borough Council what they can and cannot do.
Infrastructure. Local planning authorities should not require applicants to demonstrate the overall need for renewable or low carbon energy. So the question to consider is not...
On that basis, I would be saying no. Plus all the residents in the background that are proper pissed off about this. They don't want it.
Do we need this solar farm? That's not a relevant consideration.
Of course it's a relevant bloody consideration. Do we need a solar farm? We don't need a solar farm. We don't need any solar farms. What we need is nuclear power, not sodding solar farms.
The question is this particular site suitable for development as a solar farm? And that's the question that we'll be considering this evening. Next, please.
It's good for development for a lot of other things as well, not just solar farms, mate.
So just to summarise the harms, there would be harms arising. There would be localised landscape harm, and that carries substantial negative weight in the balance in the view of...
Now, in the last meeting, he turned around and said there'd been minimal harms and that the view would be fine because they'd make the hedges that slight bit higher so you can't see the solar panels. So he's just basically backtracked and U-turned on that straight the bloody way, straight off the bat. Harm to views, substantial less than harm, low end, significant to designs of limited land use. Well, yeah, exactly. Farming, there it is. Farming of approximately 42 years, very limited. Now, they're basically taking this land, which is farming land. And with Melton being the rural capital of food and farm and stuff like that, we've got the farmers markets and stuff like that. This will have an impact on that. And I don't think it's been looked into greatly enough. They need to say no to this solar farm. They need to say no to this solar farm.
Officers. There would be harm to views, particularly from public rights of way, and again that carries substantial negative weight. There would be less than
I bet there's
substantial harm at the low end to the significance of some designated heritage assets, and that carries limited negative weight in the planning balance. The land would not be used for arable farming.
What they should be doing is looking for dormice and silver-crested newts. That way they can stop the development going ahead.
For approximately 42 years. And that's 40 years for the operational period and a year for about a year for installation and about a year for decommissioning.
Land not used for
we can
approximately
farming
42
for
years.
the grazing of livestock. And there would be a loss of habitat for skylarks. Now, I've given that neutral weight because there is a condition requiring the provision of compensatory habitat on nearby land for skylark nesting. So that would ensure that skylarks are no worse off overall than they are currently. Next, please. So on the other hand, there are benefits. A major benefit would be...
But you're earning absolutely millions out of it from a development that no fucker wants. That's the benefit, isn't it, mate? Let's be honest.
Provision of 49.99 megawatts of clean, renewable energy. And of course, that would contribute towards national targets.
Yeah, and where would that energy be distributed to? Would it be pylons going somewhere else? At the cost of Melton?
Weight in the planning balance. Separately to that, there's a contribution to national energy security, and of course that's because it's domestically produced energy, regardless of whether it's renewable or not. It's domestically produced, it reduces the need to import energy, and that carries substantial positive weight. The diversification of the rural economy with the dual use for grazing as well as for renewable energy.
Beekeeping limited.
Weight. The rusting of the soil under grass for 40 years to recover.
Job keeping, jobs and training moderate. These require very little maintenance according to him. So how many people would it take to maintain that? 5? 6?
Carries limited positive weight. The provision of beekeeping hives.
So I'm going to make it clear exactly what it is they've done. They have basically turned around and said, we're going to have beekeeping here, we're going to have a fitness bit down here, we're going to put a little walkway with some pretty flowers on it over here and everything else, and then they've included that in all these benefits to try and make it look good for themselves. None of these benefits would have actually have been there. None of these benefits actually have got anything to do with the solar panels. These are just bits that they're putting in to try and make it look good. And on that basis, I'd say no as well. Because, not just because the residents don't want it, but because they're trying to pull the wool over Melton Borough Council's eyes. Plain and simple. Booyah.
Weight, positive. There's a condition requiring a local employment and training strategy to ensure that there would be benefits to local people in terms of jobs and training, and that would carry moderate positive weight. Provision of leisure and fitness facilities and the electric vehicle chargers carries moderate.
Because he put a pedal bench in and a seesaw. That's a benefit to the community, is it?
Weight. The environmental enhancements carry substantial positive weight. I've mentioned those already. Archaeological investigations.
I would argue the stress that it's having on the older residents is a non-benefit, wouldn't you?
There have already been a lot of archaeological investigations on the site, but there are some more still to be done, which are required by a condition. So that carries moderate weight because, of course, it could add to our understanding of the history of the area, depending on whether anything is found, of course.
Surface water drainage improvements. Now, they were talking about this last time at drains in the fields and stuff like that round the edges and runoff.
The proposal to improve surface water drainage from the site so that less water would enter the brook in the
Melton's
valley,
got a bit of a flood problem.
It does now, and that carries limited positive weight. Next, please. So the recommendation is to grant planning permission subject to the agreed...
It's recommended that you grant the planning permission.
Condition when confirmation has been received from the County Council's ecology team that they...
Again, Leicestershire County Council. Hence I said before, I think the decision's already been made.
They've received their monitoring fee for the biodiversity net gain and that they're satisfied in that regard. And of course, subject
the
to the
BNG.
conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. Do any councillors have any questions for clarification from the officer? Councillor Butcher.
What jobs and training gain? What jobs are we talking about and numbers?
Credit to Sharon Butcher there for actually mentioning that. I was saying how many people would it actually pull to employment or maybe apprenticeships and things like that.
Yeah, there's a condition listed at the end of the report that requires the submission of a strategy to ensure that there are jobs and training opportunities for local people so that we get some economic
how many
benefit locally in that regard. And this would be during the construction period. The construction period would last about 9 months plus another.
So how can you put that down as a long-term benefit if it's only lasting 9 months, you pilchard?
Another 3 months for testing. Because, of course, during the operational period, the 40-year operational period, there would be nobody employed on the site. It would be monitored remotely with maintenance checks occasionally.
Nicely pulled up, and I'll give credit where credit is due. Nicely pulled up, Sharon Butcher.
But, of course, renewable energy and solar farms...
But of course, you know, we've been told that you've got to give us planning permission.
In particular, are a burgeoning part of the economy. So this training and employment strategy could be a springboard for particularly young people starting new careers to get started on a career in renewable energy.
By pushing wheelbarrows about full of gravel, and that's what goes on round there.
Any other councillors? Councillor Sharp.
So again, I think that what they've done there with all them benefits and everything else is basically put these things like the beekeeping, the wildflower walkway, blah blah, the gym and all that. Right, they've put that in there so they've got something to be positive about, because there's nothing else that's actually positive about it, considering net zero has been proven to be unsustainable. Yet Labour and Ed Miliband are still going ahead with it because they're a bunch of idiots.
EV charges. Sorry, EV charges. Is it a trickle charge or is it a fast charge? Going to be.
So he's talking about the free charging. There'll be queues of fucking cars going down the road waiting for these two chargers. Or we can get a free 250 mile an hour electric car because there's free chargers. Mad. And a stupid idea.
Answer to that question. We can look into that when we discharge the conditions.
There'd have to be fast chargers. There's no point in having a trickle charger there.
Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, I'm not sure you'll be able to answer this. I'm not sure because I think it needs to go to the applicant. If a panel or more needs to be replaced, how long would it take and what amount of disruption or disturbance would that involve?
And more to the point, when they replace that panel, what happens to that panel and how good is it for the environment for them to dispose of that panel? Is it recycled? Because I know there's some weird materials within these panels, aren't there? Where are they produced? China?
Well, the site will be monitored remotely, and there will be checks, typically about one a month, by a small crew in a van. If any repairs...
So there's two jobs. Two jobs, that's such a benefit to Melton. Two jobs.
As are needed, those would be carried out as necessary. It wouldn't be, as is the case with any development, a building doesn't need further planning permission to carry out repairs, and the same would apply to a solar farm. So those repairs would be carried out as and when needed, and that wouldn't really have any planning implications. That would be regular maintenance. It wouldn't be likely to cause any disruption.
Taking up perfectly good farming land, which is more important to Melton and local residents that live in Pickwell.
Disturbance to neighbours or in terms of road users.
So if there's any extra lorries that's needed to come on, if they did need a panel to be replaced or more, not just one, so it wouldn't cause too much disruption?
No, there would be space within the site, so it wouldn't be necessary, for instance, for lorries to remain on the road. They'd be able to enter the site.
Oh, right, so they'd just be sort of coming in, dropping off and going.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Thank you.
Councillor Allnut.
I'm not certain whether who I should direct this question to, but we were told that we must not consider the need for solar panels per se. The nation needs solar panels, therefore we don't have to question that. We just question it on this particular site. But in the list of
we don't need solar panels, we need nuclear power. Now, nuclear power and nuclear stations can take a long time to build, so what you do in the meantime is fracking and drill baby drill until these nuclear power stations are built, and that would sustain Great Britain amazingly. Instead of all this stupid recycling bullshit that they're talking about, lithium ion, these solar panels bought from China, which we know Labour are now linked to because of the scandal that's going on over in the Houses of Parliament with Keir Starmer, putting the complete and utter nation at risk, especially with his ID cards.
Benefits, we are then told the biggest benefit is the production of all this electricity. It does seem to me that if we mustn't consider the need for them in the first place, it shouldn't be in there as a benefit. As such,
now,
there seems to be a slight...
All power to Pip for picking up on that. Again, these benefits that he said, the benefits are there. They've added these things in, so they've got a list of benefits to actually do it. If you can't see that, then there's... I'm sorry. That is what they've done. They've basically added these benefits from the last meeting. These was already there and everything else. But they're saying, well, we've got a park there. You can go on that seesaw. You can take a walk through the flower garden. There's some beekeeper things there as well. You know, that's a benefit. What else could we add as a benefit? Oh, add a little bike that somebody can pedal. Do you know what I mean? And they add these things to try and get the planning permission. at the dismay of the local residents that live around that area. It should be I think basically what should happen should be like some sort of miniature referendum on whether they want this in their area or not. Have a vote on it, done. There wouldn't be need for all these meetings. That would be as simple as that. It'd save money. What they're going to do when Doge comes in.
Imbalance there, particularly when you look at all the other benefits, which are much less so. So it's a question. Yeah, that would do for the moment.
Well, shall I come in there and basically say, as you know, Councillor, all planning decisions are based on...
I've just got to pop toilet, I'll leave you with them.
...benefit, and they're all judgment calls at the end of the day. There are very few black and white rules. So, and again, as you know, the government have put a high demand on the production of clean energy or green energy. So therefore, it has high benefits. I'm not sure if that's answering your question, or whether it's pedantics around the actual panels, or does that answer your question, or would you like something more technical?
I don't know whether it answers the question. I'm just a bit confused by the whole concept that you can rule out of our consideration national policy, but then rule it in again when as a benefit. It seems to me there's an imbalance there.
But there isn't when it comes to the planning inspectorate, which have demonstrated on many occasions where they put the weight of different things, whether it be clean energy or be it the...
if the law officer can confirm that the inspector would say I'm wrong, then I'm happy to hear that. But
what have I
need to
missed?
hear it if that's a definite case.
I'll pass to Max first.
It should catch up.
I'll give you a 30-second warning before the end, and if you finish within that 30 seconds, it'd be much appreciated. Thanks very much.
Mr. Chairman, Committee, I'm Carl Pale for Somerby Parish Council, opposing the proposal. I think we have now established that our local and neighbourhood plan policies are the statutory starting point for determinations, not the NPPF, as you were told in August. The NPPF is only a material consideration. The NPPF does advise us to give significant weight to the benefits of renewable energy, but I can see no policy justification for the officer's report advising you to give it very substantial weight. The NPPF says significant, not very substantial, and there's no reason for you to give it more weight than any more reason to give it more weight than the NPPF says than less. We've also established that our relevant local plan policies are not out of date. One such policy is EN1. This is a highly material policy because it's about landscape, but it's hardly mentioned in the officer report at all. If we want to apply policy EN1, and I think we must, that means asking whether this proposal is sensitive to its landscape setting and enhances its distinctive qualities, or whether, on the contrary, it has an adverse effect on the area's local distinctiveness. Your own consultant answers those questions for you. Significant negative landscape impact and substantial negative visual impact. Significant negative effect, which should be given substantial adverse weight. He also says these harms cannot be effectively mitigated. That's your consultant. Local plan policy...
So he's picking up on the bloke that's just been speaking about what benefits and what, negative things, basically contradicting themselves.
N10 and neighbourhood plan policies ENV8 and ENV13 are at least as relevant. The same harms make the proposal contrary to them as well as to EN1. There are considerations other than landscape character, visual impact and renewable energy, but those are the big three here, the ones with significant or substantial weightings in the report. As local and neighbourhood plans are the basis for determinations, we think it would be only rational and reasonable for the harms contrary to 4 local and neighbourhood policies to outweigh the benefit to a single material consideration in the NPPF. On these grounds, we kindly ask you to refuse, but I am very willing to take questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for doing within the time. Well practiced. And I'd like to ask any councillors if they have any questions for the speaker. No, I think you've got a clean run. Thank you very much for your time. And thank you.
I can't see how they can vote this in, but then it goes to Leicestershire. I think it goes to Leicestershire County Council. I'll have to try and find out for another video.
Thank you very much for your speech. Next, I'd like to call a member of the public, Jan McCourt, talking against. If Jan, or Jan, sorry.
So I'm taking it this is a person that lives in Pickwell.
Thank you very much for your time this evening. Again, you'll see the small face on the base. Thank you.
May I?
Yes, sorry. Go.
The planning officer's acknowledgement of the, thank you, whoever switched that on, of the section about EN10 changes, debatably, the information that I had with which to prepare my 3 minutes. I'm going to read the same 3 minutes because it's very important on that subject, but I want to acknowledge that our information has changed because we've only worked on the basis of the report as received and as made public.
Okay, we'll come back to that at the end. So when you're ready, please start with your 3 minutes, and as before, you'll get a 30-second warning.
Were it not for the determination of the councillor members of this committee, this application would have been waved through on the basis of an appallingly misleading planning report. The latest planning report continues the theme of obfuscation and misrepresentation. I am the neighbour referred to in 102812. Our land does not flood sometimes, as stated in the report, but once the water table has risen, very frequently.
You dirty bird.
This flooding removes our role as a protector of the catastrophic levels of flooding suffered by Whissendine. This will definitely worsen as a result of this development.
So with this development, in the last meeting that they had, there was big concerns about drainage in the actual fields whereabouts these solar panels are going. They were saying that it can run off. There'd need to be significant more drainage than that, considering this area has a lot of flood problems.
RWE have used the consumer cost argument repeatedly in its search for support. Last week, 3 senior executives of the largest electricity providers testified to Parliament that the non-commodity and legacy costs of these projects mean that even if the charge for power were to drop to zero, the actual cost to the consumer will continue to increase in the years to come.
Exactly.
Local press has highlighted the misleading nature of the opinion canvassing exercise carried out by RWE.
They actually call it greenwashing. They try to make you believe certain things and try and put words into your mouth and into your head to make you believe that we need these solar panels and everything else, when in fact we don't, because net zero is unobtainable. They are just there to earn money. That is all they are interested in. It's the same as water companies, blah, blah, blah.
An example of which is a 90-year-old friend of mine approached for her opinion in Oakham. She had no idea what she was putting her name to, and her family is very concerned at the way in which her views have been distorted. I appreciate that some councillors have been clear that they will ignore the stats produced by this exercise. Nevertheless, it stinks as a tactic of deception. The
Totally agree.
Along the brook, heralded as a positive, will reduce, not increase, biodiversity. This is not an objection to the use of solar per se, but as noted even by the planning officer on page 35, the site is on the side of a valley, quote unquote. It is the topography and catastrophic effect on the landscape that militates against approval. The officer confuses field patterns with field boundaries in his continued condescension towards objections. Yep. Lastly, I'm advised that the approach of the planning report remains fundamentally flawed from a legal perspective. The report continues to treat the NBC plan as irrelevant by its reference to being no longer up to date. This, that it has not been updated, does not remove its relevance. The report is therefore misinforming members in its reference to EN10. Brilliant. The officer is seeking to apply the doctrine of tilted balance in a way in which it should not be applied, as the reference to the local plan is no longer up to date incorrectly implies that this is no longer of relevance. Therefore, it is legally incorrect to tell members that they must find adverse effects which significantly and demonstrably outweigh the numerous benefits of the development. It remains the case that MBC's own landscape office...
Again, to the benefits statements that the gentleman seeking the planning permission actually did. He was trying to actually make it relevant. These things that he's put in place, for instance, the beehives and the grazing land and all the way. I'm telling you now, right, the local community around that area in Pickwell do not need these solar farms. It's an eyesore, it's not right. And this bloke's basically saying, well, you'll end up with a nice new walkway with flowers on it, 2 metres wide. We'll grow the hedges to 25 sodding foot so you can't see the solar panels and all the rest of it. There's drainage problems, there's more problems. It's just an absolute sodding shambles. This cannot be given planning permission. Impossible, surely. I could be wrong. I'll be very shocked if this goes through.
Has said that there will be significant negative impact on the landscape which cannot be mitigated.
That was the word I was looking for, negative.
Thank you.
Done within time.
I will ask you a question in a moment, but just to put one point that you mentioned in there, the officers have to follow the rules in all respects when they're making these reports, that it's not their personal opinion. So it is the rules that they're needing to follow. So I just want to make that point. But
Fair.
You made a point at the beginning that some of the information has changed, which, as the officer actually did explain, has changed. What would have changed in your speech had you known that earlier?
Well, the problem, as has been discussed on many occasions with having only 3 minutes, is there are all sorts of... One has to prioritise the points upon which one makes an objection.
I mean, don't you think that local community would be enough just to turn around and say, no, we do not want this? Shouldn't that be enough? That far outweighs any positives that the planning people looking for planning can actually put in place. They're the people that's got to live there. They're the ones that have got to walk out their front door every morning and look at that monstrosity. But don't matter about that. You've got a seesaw and a roundabout that you can go on with a nice little flowery walkway and a couple of fucking beehives. It does not make sense.
And there are so many different points that was obviously an absolute key that came up and was... Not to mention flooding. Legal advice that I sought on behalf of 65 odd local residents. I considered, obviously, as I saw that change made at the very last moment, I considered dropping that out. But actually, the point of the tilted balance reinforces, hopefully, for councillors, the basis upon which they should be, and I don't mean to assert authority over the members, they should be making their decision. So I decided on balance to leave it in.
That's fine.
Now, what will be interesting to see is how this is actually voted on, considering there's a lot of people there from that area, local residents. Does that affect the way the councillors actually vote on this? Because them councillors are put in there by the people that vote for them. That's one thing you've got to remember. That'll be interesting.
And I just wanted to make sure it didn't change anything fundamental within your argument. And I think you just basically said, no, it's not changed anything fundamental.
I would have used those vital seconds potentially to better effect, but even with the best of my ability, I could not redraft that within the last 5 minutes.
Okay, I understand the restriction of 3 minutes.
That's that, Chair.
Yeah, well, our roadside field effectively acts as a floodplain. So it gathers a huge amount of water when these circumstances arise. I believe that the creation of the solar quote-unquote farm would add to that for a variety of reasons, which have been referred to in various other points made. But one of them being the point, and I know it has been addressed to an extent, but it was sort of...
Let's just catch up on the meeting a little bit.
23 minutes and you'll get a 30-minute warning. Thank you for your time.
I think this is the last resident.
Thank you. Hearing your comments to start off with, perhaps what I'm going to say isn't really relevant in as much as you were discussing where the site should be. I really wanted to just talk about my personal views on the site. I support the scheme, firstly because I believe in these uncertain times we must be as self-sufficient in our energy supply as we can.
Yes, but not with solar panels, mate. We need nuclear power stations, which take years to build, which is why we need to frack and why we need to drill at the moment. We are a very small island. We're an extremely small island. I bet he votes Green Party. We're a very small island. We've got places like Russia, America, China and other massive, massive countries that are pumping out CO2 emissions into the atmosphere every single day. We are a tiny little island. By putting in these solar panels, we are going to have next to zero effect on the environment. Our carbon footprint is probably one of the smallest on this planet. Australia, there's another one. Now, we're reliant on Russia and their oil and their gas that we import. Now, because Putin has decided that he wants to invade the Ukraine, he's put the prices up on all of this and we are now playing the front of that, which is why we've got these oil rigs in the sea and why we need to frack to bring the price of this down. The only reason the government want to do this is because I believe that the solar panels are being made in China and they're pulling all the fucking strings with Labour. I mean, look what's happening with Keir Starmer and some of the other conspiracies that are going around at the moment. I can't get my head round this. I can't get my head round it and how people like this gentleman here can't see that. We hardly have any effect on the environment. And the thing is, you know, these solar panels, when they get recycled, what actually happens to them? And then we've got the cars with the lithium ion in them. That's bad for the environment. That's really bad for the environment. It's a big con.
Not only
net zero is bullshit.
So that we're not dependent on others with the inevitable
that I agree with.
Unpredictability of in the cost of that energy, but also in the security of our supply. Currently, in excess of 15% of our electricity is
What you need to ask is how much of that electricity is actually going to benefit Melton Mowbray.
Imported each year by undersea cables that could be at risk of interruption.
And the 32nd morning, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair, Councillors. It was good to hear from a local resident from Melton about their support for the solar energy storage on site, and I'm grateful for them for attending. I'd also like to thank members for their discussions at the last meeting, and I'd like to touch on some of the points and my reflections from that. We heard discussion on the loss of agricultural land, but it's not the loss of farmland, but rather a proposal for farmland that can work twice as hard. We've included a planning condition that requires a grazing management plan to demonstrate that dual use can be derived from a well-designed solar farm. The site will also be returned to agricultural use in an improved soil condition after 40 years. We also heard discussion on the poor harvest this year, which of course follows one of the hottest summers on record. The National Farmers Union president stated that there are several threats to national food security. But
They call that Mother Nature.
We heard discussion on land drainage, but as set out in the officer's report, this proposal will improve drainage and decrease surface water flows from the site, with a condition imposed to verify our mitigation measures. We've also heard discussion on how much solar development Melton should take, but renewable energy is a national need, not a local need. Local planning authorities are required to give significant...
We live in Melton Mowbray, mate. We don't live in London. They're the ones going to be profiting of these big energy companies, aren't they?
Weight to the
Let's
benefits
be honest.
associated with renewable energy, as per paragraph 168 of the NPPF.
This ain't going to make your bills go down.
For the first time in history, renewable energy overtook coal as the world's leading source of electricity in the first half of this year. We are making real progress, and every positive decision that each local authority makes on
That's
schemes
bullshit.
such as this makes a meaningful
That's a lie.
contribution towards cheaper, green...
Green energy has not overtaken anything. That is absolute crap. Miliband has basically made a massive cock-up of it. The statistics have been proven to be completely wrong. And this has been proven by multiple, well, not just multiple, a lot of think tanks and things like that. This is bullshit that he's coming out with now.
Electricity. I'd like to thank your officers for their hard work following the deferral of the meeting.
Stop thanking people and get on with it.
Before you. This report carefully addresses the policies raised by members and reaffirms the conclusion that recommends approval. There is a helpful summary noting that whilst areas of conflict with policy do exist, as they do in pretty much every application that can come before you, there are very significant mitigation measures and benefits. When you add together the benefits, including
The benefits that you've put there to make it sound better, the benefits that you think you should go and greenwash all these people of Pickwell with.
renewable energy, EV charging, permissive paths, education boards, ecological enhancements, and the economic investment of this solar application, the benefits outweigh harms.
A park, a couple of beehives and a flower garden. Really?
Outweighing the harm is perhaps the biggest planning test of all, and one this application clearly passes.
Oh, and don't forget the 5 jobs that it will create, which will help Melton Mowbray immensely, won't it? When we've just had like over 100, 200 people all dismissed from Tuxford and Tebbit, 2 wood yards, and Christ knows what else. Massive
The
help.
report discusses recent appeal decisions here in Melton and elsewhere. The message seems to be pretty clear, that the planning inspectorate takes the view that the supply of renewable energy is of substantial benefit weight capable of outweighing associated harms. The benefits of this scheme have been noticed by the public by virtue of the 229 letters of support from Somerby, Nossington, Coldoverton and Pickwell.
229. They are not local residents. It's Pickwell where it's, I believe it is somewhere near around Beaver Castle area, somewhere around there. And it's local residents they should be talking to, because this won't affect somebody at the other end of bloody Melton, will it? At all. It's the local residents that live within that area that should be asked whether they want this or not. And that is where all of this should be concentrated.
229 letters of support for a scheme to generate 25,000 houses worth of energy against 53 letters
Which none will come to Melton. Barrett, I bet you.
of objection.
We've got all these new houses being built. Will any of it go to them houses? Debatable. And how much will it cost? The same, probably more. We've got the most expensive electricity and gas in the world. In the world.
To 1 ratio. You've heard from a resident tonight, and in line with the over 200 letters of support, we ask you to follow the officer's recommendation to
Thank you
approve the
very
scheme.
much. Thanks very much for your time. Thank you. And
Yeah, follow the officer's recommendation to give them planning permission. I'd be telling them to fuck off. That's what I'd be doing, honest to God.
stay there just for a second. Any councillors want to ask a question? Councillor Butcher first.
There's a community benefit fund. What is that going towards and how much?
The Community Benefit Fund is...
So what are these doing? They're dazzling Melton Borough Council with money. All it'll be doing is paying off debt.
It's about £250,000. It's set, the way it would be set up is that we'd try and get a group of trustees from the local group, whether it could be the local ward.
Note, he said try and get a bunch of local trustees. Try.
Ward councillor, parish council.
So it's not a guarantee, and with the track record of Melton Borough Council, I would not trust that one single fucking bit.
Local football groups, whoever, to make a trustee group, and then they could decide how the applications come in and how to then spend the money as they see fit. It wouldn't be...
Maybe some of the local Melton Borough Council council can sort of create some trustees of some description to profit from it. Just saying.
Going to Melton, not that that's bad, but it's that it very much is to be for the community, by the community, how they want to spend it. So then we want to help them set up a group that then those trustees can decide how to disseminate the funds via applications. So it'd be very much community-led, community dispersed.
I'll just have one.
Led by rich people, exactly. Because that's what you'd need to get 250,000 quid together, wouldn't it?
One condition on that. Just as a point to make that's not a planning condition. It's not something we can.
Well picked up by Alan Thwaites there.
Application. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, Councillor Holmes.
You just said this isn't in a... There are things written down here which I thought I could ask. One of those is that this 40 years thing, and you're going to have wildflowers and what have you. And they're going to be managed for 40 years, are they? Is that going to be managed for 40 years? I mean, you're probably retired by then. I don't know, but you know, is it going to be managed for 40
Go on.
years, this wildflower meadow?
Yes, everything within the planning red line would be fully managed by RWE. The maintenance of the public footpath, the hedgerows, the landscaping, the wildflower meadows. So one of the conditions is a landscape management plan. RWE would be, as owners and operators of the site, we would therefore be, it would be
Do you think that would actually happen?
up to us to maintain it. Obviously, there'd be breaches of any condition if we weren't, but it's the fact that we, before you tonight, it's not like we'd be selling this or be moving on. We're very much the owners and operators. We'd be standing by that. We'd be maintaining everything within the planning red line.
Whilst cutting corners and trying to save money for as much money as you can put in your pockets as possible, because that's what these energy companies do.
Also, the dog walking and things like that, unless you've got an electric car, it's not going to be terribly carbon friendly, is it, to come out from Elton or Oakham, I presume? Perhaps you think it is, I don't know.
She's brilliant.
Maybe something we can put towards it in the debate.
But don't forget your free charging.
It's more the fact that there's an existing public footpath that runs through the site, and how can you then open up alternative uses for people who might want to use it, who otherwise currently don't? So it's trying to say this is, yes, it's a solar farm, but how can we be a good neighbour and do something that's more than just the solar farm? How could we
By not putting a solar farm there?
By the perimeter from the path is about 5 kilometres of permitted paths that go around the site. So if we had a route that said if you follow this route it's a 5k run or a 5k walk, people could then use that knowing it's a safe place they've got to. They could then follow that route, and then whether it goes back to their car that's charging or their cycle path, it all just diversifies the uses.
Councillor Gordon, questions, remember?
Because I haven't made up my mind on this yet, so I just want to make that clear.
I have.
But first of all, I wanted to ask, if this does go through, would you do 2 more parking spaces? Because with visitors coming to the area and also with residents, there might be more that would be interested in going round there. And also about cycling provision as well, you know, somewhere where they can store their cycles. Now, I know that you're doing it for construction workers, but I wondered if something could be done for visitors and that during the 40 years?
As the applicant would be happy for a condition to cover that. If officers were happy to also have that attached to any decision, we'd be more than happy to provide that as details reserved by condition.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Mason.
Yeah, just one question. It's not a flippant question, I can assure you, but I believe in me, I've been here before. Part of the mitigation factor is a 3-metre hedge, so that shields much of the solar farm from harm, which mitigates the harm. How do you maintain a hedge at 3 metres?
Big tractor thing, isn't it?
Part of it is letting it grow up in the landscape management plan, so it's leaving it largely, whether it's choosing the right species, whether it's trying to use the right organic fertilizers help, but it's trying to, that's where it's reserved by the landscape management plan to let it grow up.
Just to follow on from that, if you follow the code of practice for hedge cutting, you cut hedges on a 1, 2 and 3 year cyclical basis. So therefore the hedge is only 3 metres within 1 year. Now, does that not detract from the amount of mitigation that you say you're putting into this?
No, so we've got hedges that are quite wide, so we're trying to then, whether it's double stacked, to try and have the width to make sure that we can maintain it at height as much as possible. Because you're right, we don't want to then be cutting it too far down, otherwise it would then detract from some of the landscape mitigation. But the details of how frequently it's cut.
Who's the Kent Clark looking bloke? Is that next to him?
Then we can iron that out.
It's like Scarecrow out of Batman.
That may be so, but I still can't understand how you can keep a hedge at 3 metres. It is part of mitigation
tape measure
regime, and I think as part of mitigation regime, you may need to look at that in great detail. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Allnut.
I'd like to go back to the theme of flooding, because that's what I like to do. I think it was this application when you were here before. Or I apologise if it was somebody else. It was. I'm getting the nod. Yeah. My colleague raised the issue of farmers' drainage underground, and that was thought not real. And then we went back and we checked, didn't we? And there was. So, on the basis that that was an error, shall we say, not a hanging offence, but nevertheless an error, I want a bit more comfort to know that you think you can prevent the sort of inundation that we've heard from the other point of view.
So let's just say they do put this planning committee, this planning applicant forward and everything else, and they build these solar panels, and then next year or in a couple of years' time there's a massive rainfall, and then people further down that, you know, where the floodplains actually go, because you've got flow off and everything else, actually get their houses flooded. Are the council going to pay for the insurance and everything else that's going to cover that? Has that been looked at? I very much doubt it.
Because I've heard this so many times that it's not really a problem. If we do the X, Y and Z, it'll be fine.
It's a risk.
But we know that climate is changing, and I want to know why you really think, absolutely, that your scheme will not add to the threat of flooding. That's what I want to hear. You know, I want you to convince me, please.
There will be some limited around the site accesses, and in order to get the swing of the vehicles in. But as the officer's report touched on, there's over 23% net gain in hedgerow units. So yes, there is limited widening to, access points, but ultimately there is 23% improvement in the fact of more hedgerow planted.
Okay.
So what I'm going to actually do is get the vote for this, and then I'm going to log off. Let's listen to see what they say.
The overall increase in hedgerow, I assume at some point we'll receive the hedgerow removal notice in accordance with the hedgerows regulations of 1997.
All ancillary requirements as well as a planning application would be complied with.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other, Councillor Sharp?
EV charges on site, fast charge or trickle charge?
At least 20 kilowatts, but depending on when we start, if we can procure faster and better, but it'd be a minimum of 20, so decent charge.
Okay, thanks. I think that'll end the. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Thank you. We have one final speaker, which is Councillor Lee Higgins, who unfortunately couldn't be with us again. I've agreed that I will read his statement that he would have made if he'd been here.
I'd have done the same thing. I wouldn't want to have been there.
I'm not actually showing any favour or otherwise with whatever his statement is. And that may have changed, obviously, with some of the data may have changed this evening. So I'm just going to read his statement verbatim. I obviously can't answer any questions on that at a later stage. So, as Ward Councillor, Lee Higgins requested to be a speaker and said, "Thank you for allowing me to raise on behalf of the residents of Pickwell, Leesthorpe, Cold Overton and the wider communities who remain deeply concerned about this proposal. This application has now been deferred 3 times. Residents have been patient and they deserve a clear policy-led decision today. The law requires this committee to determine the application in accordance with the development plan. The so-called title tilted balance under paragraph 11D of the NPPF does not apply because our local plan is not out of date. It specifically addresses renewable energy development through policy EN10. Turning to the policy conflict, first, the proposal is in clear breach of policy EN1, landscape, and policy EN10, renewable energy. Your own independent landscape consultant concluded that a solar farm would be highly conspicuous, significantly adversely affecting the baseline landscape character within approximately 2 kilometres, and that the harm would not be successfully mitigated. That is not moderate or temporary harm, it is substantial, long-term and irreversible for the lifetime of the scheme. Second, it conflicts with policy EN6, which requires new development to contribute positively to the individual character of the settlements. This is industrial infrastructure and alien feature imposed on open countryside. visible from the approaches to Pickwell and Somerby, and fundamentally out of keeping with the rural character of this area. Third, the proposal is contrary to the Somerby neighbourhood plan. ENV 8 seeks to protect local landscape character areas. ENV 13 safeguards the amenity of footpaths and bridleways, yet users of public right-of-way D68/5 will experience significant visual intrusion and loss of enjoyment. And ENV 15 requires that renewable energy proposals address adverse landscape and immediate amenity impacts.
Enjoyment.
Here. The council's own expert confirmed they cannot be mitigated. Members, no one disputes the importance of renewable energy, but the NPPF is clear. Such developments must be in suitable locations and their adverse impacts addressed appropriately. That test is not met here. The benefits of renewable generation do not outweigh the very substantial harm to the landscape, the setting of Pickwell and the amenity of those who will live, work and walk in this countryside. For these reasons, I respectfully urge the committee to refuse planning permission on the following sound and defendable basis: that the proposed solar farm would cause significant adverse harm to the local landscape character and to public views from footpath D68/5, contrary to policies EN1, EN6 and EN10 of the Melton local plan, and policies ENV8 and ENV13 of the Somerby neighbourhood plan, and that these harms are not outweighed by the benefits of the proposal in any other material considerations. As I said, that's the statement from Councillor Higgins. I will make...
Again, credit where credit is due. Absolutely bang on.
One slight correction. From my point of view, the application hasn't been deferred 3 times. We did actually hold it's been deferred once. The others were... The last one was my decision because new information came along too late to be considered. So to give this a fair hearing, I changed the agenda to take it away. So it's just a small point there. But that's the statement from Councillor Higgins. That's the end of the speakers. As I said, I can't answer any questions on that. So I will now move to the debate on this application. Would anybody like to enter the fray first? Councillor Olnett, thank you.
I'd like to run my flag up, see who salutes it, even if it's upside down. Now then, I don't think, forgetting all the...
Mine's the right way up, Pip. Mine's the right way up. To put a flag upside down is to call that you're stressed, I believe. I've seen his column in the paper a couple of weeks back.
Policies and whether the neighbourhood plan is more important than anything else. It is patently clear, and it's stated in the list of harms, that it will be dreadful from the point of view of the vision of this part of the countryside. There's no doubt about that. It is a substantial harm, just based on that one question. And I'm not competent to really enter into the legal discussions, and no doubt we will get advice on any legal points forthcoming. But all we've really got to decide is whether we view the damage that's being done to the view and the general utility of the countryside being able to go out.
So it should be coming up to the vote very, very soon. I think there's just a couple of people that want to put the penance worth in, and basically then they go to the vote, as far as I'm aware.
Out in it and see it and hear the skylarks and so on are outweighed by the national policy, effectively, to generate more electricity. And by the way, I do remember the 1973, and I remember 1963 as well. And I remember my sister in 1954 walking into a lamppost because of the smog. So I'm quite keen on renewable energy. But I must say, at the moment, I'm feeling a bit reluctant about this, but I'm leaning towards perhaps voting against this. But I want to hear debate. But it does seem to me that we must be honest with ourselves. There is definite harm in terms of the impact on the countryside.
An impact on local residents.
Side, to be quite truthful, I think that's a different debate for another time and another place. I think this nonsense about it being temporary for 40 years we should just ignore, because it is nonsense, isn't it? I don't know where everybody else is going to be in 40 years, but I don't think I'll be here, and I think it'll just, something else will replace it. I mean, there's a new generation of solar panels being researched in Oxford, I think, at the moment, and of course we've got roof tiles that are available, which have been developed. They're not actually at the peak of performance, but that
Bus stops, top of shops, all that sort of thing that they're on about putting these roofing tiles on to actually not hamper the countryside. That's actually in development at the moment, and that could benefit towns and cities a hell of a lot.
Oh yes, you have, haven't you? So who knows what will happen with technology, but at least it's not wind farms. Thank you.
It's a money grab, is what it is. It's a money grab. The price of electric is not going to come down unless they drill and frack and get these nuclear power stations up and running.
May I ask the question now, that if we turn this down, then the Rutland side can't continue. It stops it, does it?
I think the report states that the Rutland side would be unviable.
Yeah, I thought that was the case.
Technically, they could, but yeah.
Now, I also, I don't know whether people are aware of this, but our planning officer was not aware, but there is a substation. We are talking about solar, we're talking about energy. There was a new substation, 70 acres of land at Waternaby coming up. I worry that farmers, and I cannot blame farmers for saying, yeah, let's have solar panels, because to be quite, or any sort of renewable energy, because farming is at a very, very low ebb, we know that. But there
Fair
are
point.
places where you can have solar panels. I don't believe, and I will be voting against this, because I do not believe that this is in the right place. I am still...
So again, rumours that you hear through social media and things like that proven wrong again. Just basically malicious rumours saying that they'd already voted on it and everything else. What bullshit.
very concerned about flooding. It's rather funny because they say, oh, once in 100 years. Well, it seems to be in every year, doesn't it now? And that...
I think that's to do with not dredging the rivers, though, mostly, isn't it? Because they've got a new policy on not dredging silt out the rivers, they just bank it.
Water that goes down into Whissendine, if you've seen flooding, it is pretty dire for the residents.
Hence my question about the insurance.
So I'm sorry for farmers that want solar panels, but I don't think, and for their benefit, but I don't think this is in the right area. Thank you, Mr.
Councillor Butcher.
Following on from what Elaine said, Shaby Priory, they have a solar farm up there. You can't see it particularly from the road. It's in a really good place. So I do agree with what you're saying, because I do accept, that we need to have some security, as the gentleman said, and I do.
It's not security, and they'll try and tell you it's better for the environment. It is not better for the environment. These solar panels will need to be recycled and gotten rid of within 40 years. They need to build power stations, in other words, nuclear power stations, drill and frack. These are the things that need to happen for us to have our security in Great Britain, so we can sod Putin off. Because of his inflated fuel prices at the moment, gas that we're importing, we're bearing the brunt of it. We're paying the electric and gas bills at the end of the day. Okay? And they're making absolutely billions off of this.
I do get why the farmers, want the money, because it's security, isn't it? End of the year, they know what, more or less.
It's everybody thinking for themselves and not of the wider community.
What they're going to get. But what you read out for Councillor Higgins on the impact of the countryside and I think for me, I'm more swayed that way now.
I mean, I want to remind people that it comes down to the traffic at the end of the day, how many people will see that site. And I'm not putting a view either way. I just wanted to put a counter view in the fact that, yes, I understand what you're saying about damaging the local countryside and whether it's the right place or the wrong place. And that sort of comes down to what is the size of that impact. And sometimes that has to be, well, how many people will see that impact? As you said, as we know, we've looked at this site, and there is quite a large strip of land.
So how does that fit together with the overall strategic issue of landscape, together with the very good report that was written by the officer, and also the information provided by Mr. Stanion, which I found quite revealing. So I tried to build a whole picture, and I also take into account the appeals that I've read timelessly, endlessly appeal.
So I'm going to call that the end of the video. I'm not going to stay on to get the vote. You can go over onto the Melton Borough Council page on YouTube and actually get that for yourselves from there. The takeaway from this actual meeting over at Melton Borough Council is basically the councillors should be doing, they were voted in by the residents of Melton Mowbray and surrounding areas, and they are supposed to be there to actually support their local residents and everything else. It looks to me like they might vote this down. Not 100% sure. Like I say, go over to the YouTube channel of Melton Borough Council and watch the end of the meeting. I don't know how long the meeting is actually going to go on for. I've got things that I've got to do in my own home and do things, you know, life goes on. This has been Street Switch Photography. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Go and hit the notification bell, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video. Tomorrow I'm going to be taking a visit to one of these solar farms just to show you what they're all about. It'll be a live video. Let's roll the outro.
Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah.